after a certain point, Derek is going to get tired of trying to get to know her. Like, she's giving Ice Queen. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I will be reviewing episode 4 of Married at First Sight, season 19. So the last episode ended with, Brittany not really being happy with, what happened between her and Will and feeling very worried. And this episode 4 starts out with Jalen and Josh, okay? So Jalen says that, Jalen is basically commenting on the other couples and ranking like who she thinks will basically work out, right? So the first couple she says that she sees working out is Meghan and Derek. Now guys, I don't believe that at all. I'm so sorry. Based on what we've seen of Meghan and Derek, I wouldn't be putting them at the top, but Jalen's putting them, I'm not putting them at the top. The next couple she thinks would work out is Rhonda and Pat. I could see that working as of now, right? That I agree on. The next one she basically said was her mom and Chad. And the last couple is Brittany and Will. And we see Jalen say that the reason she put Brittany and Will last in terms of being able to work out is because she didn't feel any physical chemistry between them. And I agree, right? There's something lacking between Brittany and Will. I feel like the attraction you see with the other couples, it's so evident that Brittany and Will are kind of missing that because you see such a high level of physical chemistry with the other couples, right? Like, I personally just don't think that Will is that into Brittany. Something is just missing there. Like there's no passion, there's no spark, right? And Jalen is clearly picking up on that too. So yeah, and if I had to rank, I would put Rhonda and Pat at the top. I would then put, I would put Jalen and Josh at the top. Rhonda and Pat would be next. Meghan and, actually no, not Meghan and Derek. I would say Belinda and Chad would be next. Meghan and Derek would be under that. And then last would be Brittany and Will. That's my ranking as of episode 4 right now. That's what I would say. Let me know your ranking, guys. But that would be mine. Okay, Josh is bringing up that he plans on going to like Burning Man. And, Jalen doesn't really seem interested in doing that. I don't blame her. Like, if you guys don't know what Burning Man is, it's basically a music festival that's like completely outside. It seems pretty intense, like it's a whole trip. And I think you don't really have like bathrooms. Like there's a lot of things that are like missing. It's not giving like Coachella, right? It's not glamorized. And on top of that, I hear people do a lot of like drugs when they go to Burning Man. So that just really wouldn't be my scene. It's not really Jalen's scene. But Josh is kind of trying to get an idea, like, kind of feel Jalen out and see what activities he likes to do that Jalen would be interested in joining him on, right? Okay, so then we go to Meghan and Derek, and Meghan is saying she's not used to sharing bills, and, she's been alone for so long that she's only really learned how to live that way, right? So it's so different for her having that person to share these things with. And then we see Meghan saying that, Derek is asking her questions, and we see Meghan say that she doesn't really want to talk about like heavy topics on the honeymoon. And I get where Meghan's coming from, but the honeymoon is like the one time the couples have to themselves without like the outside world or work or anything else interrupting. I do feel like this is the perfect time for them to get to know each other deeply. But yeah, Meghan's not trying to do that. So we shall see, because I'm like, when else are you going to get to know each other more? When you're like working and you have all these other responsibilities. So I find Meghan a little strange for this, but all right. Then we go to Rhonda and Pat. So they're talking about like movies, and Pat is just talking away. Like he is just yapping away to the point that it seems like at one point Rhonda falls asleep. He doesn't even realize that she's sleeping. He doesn't even realize that Rhonda's not listening anymore. And I never understand people's ability to do this, because I do feel like there has to be a sense of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I don't understand how people can just talk, never really give room for the other person to even respond, and you're just still talking. I find that bizarre. I'm like, what? But, he's just talking away. And, eventually Rhonda mentions something about how, she leaves the TV on in her house when she leaves because she's been robbed in the past, right? And to me, I'm like, oh my God, I'd want to know who robbed you. When did that happen? You want to know details, right? Basically, Pat responds by mentioning something about the melons in his food. Like, he's not listening at all, right? And you can tell that this bothers Rhonda, right? She's just like, is this guy just going to talk about himself? And then when he's not, he won't be listening to me? It's very strange. Yeah, so I don't know, but they need to learn how to like communicate, and Pat needs to probably stop talking about himself the whole time. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, so then we see that the couples are kind of going off on their own separate like activities and excursions, and we see Belinda and Chad, and they're shopping, right? So they go shopping. Belinda picks out a hat that she really likes, and Chad ends up buying it for her. And Belinda mentions that she's not used to someone buying something for her. And, she also mentions that she would like to see Chad's romantic side. And I think that that's a fair point, right? Because right now, all we've ever seen of Chad is like his terrible dad jokes. Like, he's just joking all the time. So Belinda wants to see that like more serious romantic side of Chad. And I think that that's fair. Okay, then we go back to Brittany and Will. Things are clearly still awkward between them. They're having dinner, and Brittany, still thinks that Will has been distant, right? And yeah, I personally still think Brittany is kind of projecting from her past. I didn't really see a lot of behavior changes in Will. Maybe there's something that she's experiencing that I'm not seeing, but I think that she is projecting a little bit. And then Brittany thinks that they kind of need to get to know each other better. And I don't know, you can just tell there's so much tension between this couple. And I find it odd because it's such early days. I'm like, where is this tension coming from? It's bizarre. And I just never thought that this would come from them doing something like going to Pound Town, right? Like, I feel like it's just caused this tension and awkwardness between them that still hasn't gone away. So then we see Rhonda and Pat, and Rhonda basically asks Pat what he's learned about her so far. And you see Pat's like thinking, and he basically says nothing really, leaps to mind. And I'm thinking, yeah, nothing leaps to mind because he doesn't really ask about Rhonda, right? So Rhonda basically calls Pat out, which I love. Like, she wasn't, trying to play any passive aggressiveness. Like, she was straight to the point. And she basically brings up how she, had mentioned to him that she was robbed in the past. And instead of him kind of probing and understanding what happened to her, he changed the topic and he's talking about something else, right? So Rhonda just explains that she didn't like that. She's very like straightforward with it, which I love, because she's like, this is what I didn't like. You need to be more aware of this, right? And then Pat kind of responds and says that he just feels the need to fill the space with words. But it seems like this is something he's going to try and be more aware of. At one point, Rhonda opens up about her mom, and, Pat did a good job of kind of empathizing with her and listening when she talked about her mom. So I do think there could be progress made here, right? I think Pat just has to kind of get out of his own head and remember that it's not all about him, right? And that he needs to get to know Rhonda. I do think Pat responded in a very good way when Rhonda brought up what she felt like, right? He wasn't just like defensive. He was understanding, which to me is a good sign, because I think it shows that they could have healthy communication, right? That there's that potential there, which is a good thing. Then we go back to Meghan and Derek. And Meghan says that she enjoys the banter between them. And I'm like, what banter? Are you guys seeing some banter that I'm not seeing? Because this couple to me is drier than paint. Like, there is no banter that I'm picking up on. Maybe they just left it out. They've cut them all out of the scenes. But I'm like, what banter is she talking about? So Derek says he basically likes that Meghan has let him take the lead in their relationship so far. And Meghan explains to Derek that, at home, she's like, her head is always turned on because of work and how much she works, right? So in her personal life, she actually really likes to turn off. which I think makes a lot of sense. And it's really good that Derek can kind of play that role and turn his head on for her personally, right? Like he likes that he can kind of play that role and she lets him take the lead. I think that that's a good thing. Overall, I do find these couples conversations to be a bit boring. I feel like they need to kind of get more into like the depths of who they are. And I know for a fact that Meghan is kind of the one not letting it get like deeper, if that makes sense. I feel like there's still a lot of surfacey conversations going on and they need to get to know each other better. So hopefully we do see that. We see Rhonda and Pat and they're meditating in the forest saying that they love each other. I feel like that scene was just very much indicative of Rhonda and Pat. Like they're just funny. Okay, then we go to Jalen and Josh and you see that Josh has decided to basically take Jalen on this like hike to the top of this rainforest. We all know that Jalen is not outdoorsy. You can literally hear her screaming because there's bugs. She's like fighting bugs off of her. And this is just not her element at all. You know, we see Josh say that he wants to take Jalen out of her comfort zone. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that there has to be compromise in the sense of Josh should also want to do things with Jalen that are things Jalen likes to do, like go to the mall or go shopping, right? I feel like it can't always be, oh, let me take Jalen out of her comfort zone. Hopefully Josh will be okay with doing things that Jalen likes too, right? Because it seems like they do have different interests. Okay, so we see them get to the top of this rainforest and Josh presents Jalen with a brand new rock, a brand new ring, right? So, you know, Jalen didn't suffer for no reason because the ring looked very nice and Jalen looked very, very happy. So yeah, in the end, it was kind of cute. You know, he took her up there and, you know, basically kind of gave her a new ring, which was awesome. So then we see that the men and women separate, right? And they get to kind of talk amongst each other. Rhonda, you know, is talking with all the women. She's asking how things are going. Jalen is showing them her ring, saying that so far things are going great for her. And Brittany wants to know if anyone has said like the L word, right? And we realize that nobody has really said it except for Rhonda and Pat so far. Yeah, then we see Brittany talking about her and Will, and she talks about how her and Will are very different and that it's something that she's still trying to navigate, right? Rhonda then kind of chimes in and says that her and Pat are also very different and that they've also been trying to navigate that as well. You know, just to kind of let Brittany know you're not the only one, like they also have their differences. We then see the guys talking and, you know, Derek says him and Meghan are navigating being together, you know, after being single for so long. He says Meghan doesn't ask a lot of questions about him. And, you know, this is like an ongoing issue with this couple. I personally don't know if this is going to work. And I feel like it won't work on behalf of Derek. It would be because of Meghan, right? Because I don't know, there's something about her that's giving like maybe spoiled and just like, I would be bored if I was with her. Like, what do you talk about, right? She just kind of sits there and maybe, you know, over time their conversations will get better, but I have to be mentally stimulated and Meghan's not bringing much. Like eventually I get bored. So Derek is, you know, he still has faith that maybe, you know, they will get to know each other better, but I'm losing a little bit of faith in Derek and Meghan. And it's sad because they were, you know, one of my favorite matches from the earlier, you know, reviews that I did. I thought that their differences would complement each other well, but personality wise, you know, the personality of Meghan, I just don't know, because something about her is giving like stubborn and like it would not even take criticism well. That's the vibe that I get. We see Brittany say that she really wants to get to know Will more and that she's hoping that he will let down his walls. And I know where Brittany's coming from because I do feel like Will has a lot of walls that he does need to let down. And I feel like they do need to kind of get closer to each other. But sometimes I do feel like Will is not the most open person. He doesn't strike me as someone that's like an open book in terms of you knowing who he is. So I think Brittany is right in saying that. Like she wants to get to like, who is Will as a person, right? Like they need to kind of get to know each other a lot better. And I'm not really sure what's going on with Brittany and Will, because it seems like they do communicate well, but then there seems to be this, upcoming thing of they don't know each other, so I'm like, okay, ask questions, like get to know each other. Like what's stopping you? It's odd. Then we see Meghan and Derek and they go surfing. And Derek basically wants to know, basically wants to have Meghan ask more questions about him, right? Meghan immediately gets defensive and says that he hasn't asked anything about her, basically. And that's not true, right? Because we've seen, Derek try and ask Meghan questions and Meghan will respond and say, oh, I don't want to discuss that because we're on our honeymoon, right? I haven't really seen Meghan ask Derek questions in reverse, unless Meghan has been asking Derek questions off camera. Like, I haven't seen that, right? So, yeah, Meghan doesn't want to talk about anything, it seems, right? So I'm like, what is going on here? Like, it doesn't make sense. Meghan gets very defensive and she basically says at one point that she feels ambushed and that she feels attacked. And I just really didn't like Meghan's response in this moment. I feel like, how are you ever going to bring anything up to her if her immediate response is to just get defensive? It was just a little disappointing, right? Because Derek did not come to Meghan and say, hey, you haven't been asking me any questions in any kind of abrasive way. He said it in a very respectful manner. Hey, I would like you to ask more about me. Like, Meghan didn't, why are you feeling attacked? Nobody's attacking you, So yeah, I'm not really feeling Meghan right now. I think after a certain point, Derek is going to get tired of trying to get to know her. Like, she's giving Ice Queen, and I don't really know what that's about. Like, don't you want to get to know your husband? I don't know what's going on with Meghan. I really, really don't. Okay, so then we go to Brittany and Will, and they're saying, like, how did you sleep? Or like, good morning. And I just don't feel any chemistry between these two. I feel like they speak to each other like they're colleagues. Like, it's very transactional and strange. I don't feel the emotion behind it. Yeah, and as Jalen said, I don't see the chemistry between them, So Brittany basically is saying that she's tried to get to know Will better. And you see that Will is disagreeing and he's saying that Brittany hasn't been asking any questions. So, Brittany is clearly very frustrated. She says she's frustrated and, Will is kind of responding with these like 1-2 word answers. He's not really giving much. So Brittany gets so frustrated that eventually she says she's going to go take a shower, right? But we see that she goes downstairs to basically order some food at the bar or something, right? And, Will is talking to the producers and he's saying that Brittany hasn't asked him any questions. And he's saying basically that he's not going to chase her and that she left for a reason. So I didn't really love Will's attitude in this situation. Like, Brittany never asked to be chased, right? She didn't tell him that she was going downstairs to get food. She said she was going to take a shower, right? So she never wanted him to chase her. So I don't know why he's even bringing that up, right? And I don't think that's the right attitude to have in marriage. I feel like when you have these disagreements, there should be a sense of you trying to resolve them, right? And one thing I'll say about Brittany is I don't think she should have said she was going to take a shower, but then instead of doing that, you just go downstairs to get food by yourself, right? That's also not the right move either. Like, you guys have to communicate things out, But I don't like Will's attitude, and I think that his attitude is coming from him not really being committed to this marriage. I don't think that he's really that into Brittany because I don't see the passion. Like, whatever is going on between them is dead. Like, there's nothing there, And to be honest, I don't see it on both sides. Like, I don't see it in Will. And I also don't think that Brittany is even that into Will, because I don't see the chemistry. I think that if anything, they're trying to force it, and maybe in forcing it, they're running into these issues that they're having. Yeah, I don't have faith in some of these couples at this point. I think that the biggest ones that I'm seeing problems with are, Meghan and Derek, Brittany and Will, but for different reasons. In the sense that with Brittany and Will, I think that they both have things that they're doing wrong in this marriage so far that they need to work on, right? More so Will than Brittany, but still, both of them are doing things that are not really making this marriage come off to a good start, right? In terms of Meghan and Derek, I think it's a little different because I feel like Derek is really trying, right? But Meghan is literally giving him nothing, okay? And because of that, we haven't really seen their relationship grow for me to really give like a good consensus of how I feel about them, right? But based on Meghan's attitude and what we're seeing from Meghan right now, I don't have a lot of faith. And I think that if it didn't work out, it would be because of Meghan and just her personality and the fact that she's giving Ice Queen, okay? Like, I'm like, what is going on? I do have more faith in Jalen and Josh right now, Belinda and Chad, and who am I missing? Jalen and Josh, Belinda, oh yeah, and Rhonda and Pat. Those three, I think, could make it. They could make it to the end, right? And actually stay married. We'll see. This is only episode 4, so we shall see. I think more episodes drop on Thursday, so I will be reviewing those as well. Please let me know your opinions on these episodes so far. I would love to hear them. Comment down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.